I'm happy to have all of you here. You all bring a different backgrounds to the conversation. I think we're going to start with you, Mr. Abdullahi Rakib. I hope that's okay with you. Bangladesh is going to graduate from the LDC status. What kind of challenges and opportunities does that bring for Bangladesh? And please feel free to share a little bit more about Team Group, what you are doing, so for those who don't know you yet, that they have a better understanding. There is a microphone. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you, the organizer, for such a great exposition and connecting platform. Well, LDC graduation is a honor for a country like us, but then again, the preparation-wise, if we are not ready, that's a challenge. I would say that the era of 50 billion, the first 50 billion versus era of second 50 billion is totally different. The chapter 1 was volume, chapter 2 have to be value. So we talk about having ESG, talk about environmental goal, talk about all the good governance goal in terms of traceability, talk about data transparency, talk about being responsible in each of the process, talk about being human in each of the process, being responsible for the planet. Yeah. All these things are, of course, is a topic which we have to address. I mean, thanks to many of the entrepreneurs who actually has resiliently invested to make sure that they are like early bird to show the way so that the rest of them can follow. Now, if we see that the support we have had from European Union by end of 2029 is going to be over.
End of what, sorry?
Because we are projected to be graduate on November 14, 2026 with a 3-year transition period. Meaning is 14th of November, we'll have the last GSP issued. Having said that, our preparation to fight with an escalation of another 9.6% of tax over these countries is definitely the support we had from European Union gonna be withdrawn. So are we really ready to play and have our competitiveness is definitely question mark.
Yeah.
What I will say that it's nothing to be that worried because more or less all those basic points have been addressed. But now what we have to do within next 3 to 4 years, we have to make sure that we show those performance into each of those parameters so that we kind of have the eligibility to go for GSP plus. Which is going to even given us those benefits back.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that in country-wise, government has its commitment, and with this new interim government, they are more labor-oriented. They are also trying to focus into all those 11 points which we know that USTR or European Union Parliament or ILO is suggesting us to improve. We are focusing on to improve each of the factory. I think the large stakeholders, they already addressed in terms of decarbonization, in terms of circularity and all those CHDD aspect. Yeah. Even though they also delayed by 2 years, just 2 days back, to implementing process, the European Union also declared. But I think that pressure should be positive on the stakeholders, on the government, so that it give more positive energy, and of course at the same time you have to support by the business and most importantly by the price which can make it more affordable, because at one stage you were telling us to be more human, But then again, talking about price competition, you were not giving us that equal support. I believe it's a partnership. It's a partnership between the continents. It's a partnership between the companies and countries, so that we are integral part of the supply chains. What all those important retailers connecting us throughout the trade. But having said that, they have their moral responsibility, they have their environmental responsibility, which we are implementing partner. So here we need financial support and policy support, and of course our own commitments.
Yeah, and I also hear you say that the purchasing practices from the brands and retailers also important for you to make it happen.
Absolutely.
Huh? And you need to be in that together. You cannot just say you want sustainable factories, but then you want only the lowest price, right?
Sorry, I didn't.
Brands cannot just say, I want you to be sustainable as a factory, and I also always want the lowest price. There is a price to do this, and that's what I hear you say, right? You need to do it, and you need to do it in partnership.
Of course. There are good partners who understand that, appreciate that, but there are partners who pretend they want to be part of it, but in reality they're not part of it.
No.
I must say that we really have to be honest and sincere to our initiative and appreciate whatever we are doing. Like, we have to showcase this kind of, in this kind of platform, we have to unveil our data, we have to criticize us positively, and our goal is to achieve it by 2029.
Yeah. And you were just saying that the first 50 billion is easy, and the second 50 billion is more challenging. What can Bangladesh do to go to the second 50 billion? How do you move away from the basic
I absolutely know that, and I am very confident that Bangladesh will achieve that.
Yeah.
And you see, when you see the inefficiencies in the production floor, management system, and data-driven decision-making, those are the opportunities stroke challenge. Challenge today because we are not really focused. If we can be more data-driven, our managers can decide better. If you see a merchandiser is wasting that much of dollars into his pricing metrics, if you see production floor are more lean and more efficient, you see that more competitiveness can be achieved, number one. Number two, and those are potentiality. That means if you could achieve those, you could grab more business, which you are actually losing now to your competition. When I see the fiber diversification, because we are pretty much dependent on cotton-focused product, cotton-blended product. When I see the potentiality or the opportunities in the global market, I see more man-made fiber, which is also more focused in sustainability parameters. So if we want to focus into sustainability, if we want to focus on fiber diversification, which we are actually from BGMEA, we have our Vision 2030, and there we want the government to set the policies to incentivize the fiber diversification, whereby this diversification can encourage the entrepreneur to invest into different fiber-based investments. So having said that, if we see the moving away business from China, or having this Trump's administration having these tariff tricks to imbalance or balance the business, I do not know, but I think that's going to give us a favoring condition to grab more man-made fiber business. And those are opportunities, and I strongly believe in terms of activewear, outerwear, athleisure, and all those mechanical fabric. If we can invest, if we can organize our people, process, product, I'm sure this will give us $50 million journey into value-driven product. And that will also give us the capacity to pay better to our worker, pay better to our ecosystem, to be responsible for the environment, to make sure that we also treat enough whatever we are polluting. And I'm sure that having a lot of good projects from partnering from the customers, we are already initiating a lot of good things which are good for the environment, good for our workers' well-beings, and also our employees, management-driven efficiency-focused system, so that it really helps.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I think that's a very helpful insight. Said Mohammed Tamer, I would like to move to you. There's a microphone also, Catherine, next to you on the grounds. You're a young entrepreneur,
Yes.
and we're dealing with... yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
Welcome. We're dealing with the rising costs, a lot of demands on sustainability. I can imagine there's a lot of pressure on you, maybe shifting buying behavior. Can you share with us what are some of the biggest challenges that you are facing and that you need to navigate right now on the grounds?
Thank you for that. Firstly, I would like to say thank you for inviting me to speak on this panel. So it is a privilege to be amongst you and to be able to share my opinion. I am a second-generation entrepreneur. As my father before me, he has set up a business, and I am taking the helm of that. So I'm from a heritage business, as you might say. So for us, it is especially different. Why? Because for me, I have actually ventured into a new diversification for my company. So amongst this time, we have actually endured a lot of things, a lot of challenges, such as the energy prices going up, and we are seeing that, okay, some political instability was there. However, we are hopeful that now a lot of these things are coming to an end and coming to an impasse where we are coming to resolution, where we can see that both the governments and the manufacturers and the associations, we are having conversations and dialogues where we can actually resolve these problems and to actually secure our positions as stakeholders, you know, to see how we can make an impact and how we can actually contribute most. So I think these are all important dialogues, and I think when it comes to the challenges, as Mr. Rakib has said, that we need to actually look into how best we can attract value. Value imposition is actually the biggest cry of the moment, as I think if we cannot go into this value-added product space, we cannot make a huge difference, you know, because this value-added part, I think for the longest time, Bangladesh has been associated with volume-centric production, which was at times taxing because it was always a price game, you know. So I think now we are moving away from that, and we're moving into more progressive thought chains, such as adding value through our production methods, through our experience, what we have gathered in our number of years as producers. And I think if you are looking at manufacturers outside of China, and you look at the other possible or plausible destinations for your sourcing products, you will see that Bangladesh is a very robust nation that is actually a very attractive target for brands. And I think that we have actually proven ourselves over a very long tenure that we have been able to showcase this robustness, that we have been resilient towards this, and we can actually see that. I think that a lot of factories now are forcing their way into like doing products which are, you know, which were not thought of being possible in Bangladesh. But now I think that these are already in the high street, and these are already in the stores, you know. And as you have said that, you know, we have a lot of green factories, a lot of certifications. These certifications come with a cost. And I think this cost entails that sustainability is not only about the environment, but rather it is about the value chain and all the stakeholders involved. I think this is the conversation we should be leading, and I think this is the way we can, you know, sort of get over this hump.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can achieve that here also.
Sorry,
yeah.
I just want to add one sentence with him to give an example.
Yeah.
Like yesterday and today, there is another exhibition going on on denim, right? Kingspin.
Yeah.
So if we see the export figure, we say we are the largest exporter in Europe, even in USA, for denim.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, in Kingspin, our presence from Bangladesh is only 2-3
Yeah.
exhibitors. So government could patronize this, customers could patronize us to put more value-driven activities into all those, whereby we can see the growth opportunity, where it's just not about the number of pieces or number of dollars, it's about adding value towards showing new innovation, new development on product, on process, and of course on people.
Yeah. Thank you for that addition. I think that's very useful. Scaling up circularity is also challenging in sourcing hubs. Can you share a bit about what you have been doing with circular innovations within your factory?
Okay, so I think the question of circularity is something that we are discussing in a very broad sense. And I think that definitely as a sourcing destination, Bangladesh, we have a long way in terms of policies, in terms of, processes, in terms of even what the manufacturers have set up when it comes to circularity. But I think in our case, or in my case, I can speak for myself, which is that we look within. Circularity starts from within. It starts with the mindset, it starts with the intention. And I think that when we have that intention and when we have that willingness to actually do something the right way and to actually promote what is right, I think that is what will take us in the next level. And we have been practicing a lot of things regarding circularity, like we have a lot of recycling plants now being set up in Bangladesh. We have a lot of laws that are coming in from the government perspective, and I think the associations are also doing their part in actually speaking regarding circularity. So I think this is a broader discussion that I think from the EU side we have a goal definitely, and we as manufacturers are trying our best to bring circularity into a discussion.
Yeah.
However, I think it starts from within. It starts with a mindset, it starts with an intention. Definitely the brand's backing is important, the partners' backings are very important, but it is also a question of intent.
Yeah. I think that's a really good one to walk away with for now. Carolina, we will move to you. You're working for Cascale, and Cascale is all about collaboration. And I mean, Sayed, you also mentioned it, that you see that when people are communicating, government associations, it's helping. What do you believe truly drives meaningful collaboration, and what is needed to kind of achieve also what the two gentlemen earlier also said?
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to reflect on this a bit by sharing two examples and also reflect a little bit more on the role of governments and brands. But before I do that, I also wanted to explain a little bit, because we used to be called the Sustainable Apparel Coalition and now Cascale. But Cascale actually means collective action at scale, delivering focused initiatives driving focused initiatives that deliver measurable progress across consumer goods. And you might know that we have started in apparel and textiles and united with 300 plus very diverse members, because we're a membership association, right? We really, made sure that we wanted to serve broader consumer goods, so we are also starting in home furnishings, in luggage and bags, and in sporting goods. So when we look at really, really huge issues like the climate crisis that we're in, the social and environmental injustice that is happening in value chains, like you're also posing your question, the only way to go is collaboration. And thank you also for emphasizing that. In the way that we do that is perhaps many of you already know about the Higg Index tools.
About what, sorry?
The Higg Index tools.
The Higg Index tools. I don't know if everybody knows about the Higg Index tools.
Probably, because they are used
the tools,
by
the Higg Index tools.
Yeah, they are used by 40,000 users in our value chains efforts to drive decent work and to really make sure that decarbonization is accelerated. So in the sense of the two examples that I wanted to share about what is really driving meaningful collaboration, I wanted to share one example that really closed out the 31st of March, actually. It was an initiative with great support from GIZ and the German ministry. On the one hand, with our dear partners from SLCP, promoting further convergence of social and labor audits and testing it out also in another industry. On the environmental side, we have successfully, across 100 facilities in Cambodia, in Vietnam, and in Bangladesh, tested and validated a way in which the Higg Index, the facility environmental module, could be connected to improvement programs. And the potential that we have seen also validated and encouraged by not only the facilities, but also their customers that are endorsing this model that is publicly available. We have seen the time it can really reduce to conduct audits on the environmental side. The facility journey and the data metrics that we have launched for this is publicly available. But what is really great about it is that it's a unified framework. It's scalable, it's transparent, and it's and it's at its core aiming to standardize. So literally how that practically works. If you have done a lot of modules already from the ZDHC improvement program, it means you can tick them off under the FEM. So really we're supported in reducing the time spent on audits. That's something that I wanted to highlight.
I think that's very important because we don't want to spend our time on just another audit. And just
spend your time on things that really, really matter, right? Yeah. Although doing the assessment is, of course, important, whatever we can do, we need to really make sure that we...
So you're getting everyone aligned, from suppliers to buyers to consumers, to kind of accept this way of measuring.
Exactly, And we started only with the Higg FEM and the improvement programs, but we're really putting it out there, and we invite everyone that has industry-wide accepted tools and other improvement programs to come and align with us so we can connect everyone. The other example that I wanted to share is the strategic partnership with the BGMEA. We entered this strategic partnership because we mutually share the conviction for the need for more carbon neutral and environmentally responsible practices. Through quite a lot of member engagement, harmonized environmental and social and labor tools, but also impact data sharing, policy advocacy and events, we are just really excited to complement each other's strength and not duplicate again, right? Reduce overlapping initiatives, but also making sure that all relevant stakeholders' voices are meaningfully included.
But is this just for decarbonization, or also for what is?
The focus is on decarbonization, but definitely not ruling out also the connections and the nexus that are proven also to be on the social and labor side. So it's not only with BGMEA, but also with other strategic partners, such as the excellent work that you can also see, I think, later this day on the Human Rights Due Diligence Academy with Fairware, promoting more openness in terms of disclosure and getting there with Open Supply Hub, promoting further social and labor convergence with SLCP, the International Apparel Federation, and of course also Bangladesh Apparel Exchange, who is allowing us also to speak here and organize events like these. It's a real testament to the fact that you really, really need to make sure when you are collaborating that you're not duplicating all these programs and initiatives over and over again. It's complex, but it's worthwhile, and it gives us meaning in that respect.
Yeah, so I think it's great. You're trying to simplify it. And,
Yes.
And I hear also that you need to communicate to do so.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
in the end, you need to take steps to make these improvements.
Exactly,
right?
and there are a few things that's getting to the more final point that I wanted to make. We do foresee, and I'm saying this in the spirit of encouragement, but also what is really, really, really needed for really meaningful collaboration. We do see a role for governments to really reduce the regulatory burden. We have now seen, as an example, the delays in legislation involved in the omnibus package. But I'm also going to be a bit more concrete on the role we see for brands. We really encourage brands to really stay course on reducing 45% GHG emissions and supporting decent work for all. And I have 4 more specific suggestions that we would like to share with you today. We really encourage you to set examples with your own target setting on science-based targets and science-aligned targets, and encourage the use of programs like the Manufacturer Climate Action Program or anything that is very much aligned in this respect. I'm going to use the word aligned very much. And also prioritize the suppliers that have made these investments. That is so important. The second thing is that we really encourage and urge you, especially amidst all this change, to keep communicating openly amongst each other and strengthen really your long-term partnerships. Even though there are so many challenges, it's really, really important to do so. The third thing we recommend and really encourage brands to do with manufacturers and other stakeholders is committing really to responsible purchasing practices. And the last one is something that is very close to our heart, and this is reducing audit duplication. Use industry-wide accepted tools instead of your proprietary tools. And the last thing that I wanted to say about this
is already the last thing.
Yeah. Is why the Hague Index, but also other industry-wide accepted tools are so valuable, right? The facility tools that we have shared amongst our membership, they really help unlock insights to drive efficiencies, to reduce costs, and to enhance socio-environmental performance, and helping users to navigate regulatory demands. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think a lot of valid points that are actually also touched upon by the first speakers. I would like to move to Mr. Sanjay Jain. You're the CEO of PDS Limited. You have a pretty unique insights because you're operating in different countries. It would be very interesting to hear what kind of technological sustainability or innovation practices have you tried and you think are replicable? I don't know if that's the right word, but we can copy in Bangladesh.
I think firstly I will echo on Rakib Bhai's sentiment. It says Bangladesh into future, clearly $100 billion from $50 billion of exports. So therefore, what can we do to get to that number and what best practices can be brought in? In your opening remarks, you mentioned about the LDC status being under review. You know, the cost of production of garment is just one part of the cost into the entire retail value chain. The garment is out of the factory, then it spends time to the port, at the port, on the sea, reaches the warehouse. How much time is it lying in the warehouse? And I realize, oh God, this is not the inventory I wanted. There's a mismatch. So can Bangladesh do about, reducing the cost in the entire value chain? So therefore, the first point to reflect on the question you asked me is digitalization. That can we integrate the entire supply chain through a digital interface? Therefore, the agility of operations should be tremendously improved. Can we have a real-time tracking of inventory? Therefore, the predictive planning is much better. So these two things that I just said have an implication on the cost that I said are there in the value chain. If there is a predictive inventory planning, then what is landing up in the warehouse exactly in line with what you wanted it to be. So if as a manufacturer in Bangladesh, I can invest into that technology that allows a retailer to do that tracking, then I think LDC is just one part of it. I'm actually going up the value chain.
But just for me to understand, do you feel that in Bangladesh that is something that there's room for growth much more than other countries that you're operating in, or do you just mean in general that's important for across?
See, after China, we are the second largest exporting nation. 50 billion is a humongous scale.
Yeah.
At this scale, we should be investing into digitalizing the entire value chain.
Yeah.
And that is where I would be adding more and more value to the retailer.
Yeah.
The cost part of going up because of the LDC status under review can actually be to a large extent neutralized by the value I would add. In fact, Rakib Bhai was talking about more and more value-added thing. This digitalization is one aspect of the value chain.
Yeah.
In fact, in the value addition, can we migrate from mass production to mass personalization?
Mass personalization.
Therefore, and as you do personalization, there is volume. Can I add flexibility on top of it? Now, how do I do that? I can do modular manufacturing, wherein the technology play a lot more role. It is smaller MOQs, smaller quantities, but far more value accretive for the industry.
Yeah.
So therefore,
Less waste.
less waste as well. So I think digitalization, the value addition, and the third part is, as he was echoing upon, the compliance and sustainability. Let Bangladesh not talk about this as a cost. Let us build this as our competitive advantage.
You mean a competitive advantage to have it right?
Yeah, the retailer is demanding traceability. Mm-hmm. The retailer is demanding the carbon accountability and ethical labors.
Yeah.
So I would, as a nation, go ahead and say I'm committing to it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure that this is my advantage to it. This is a zero compromise requirement, and more going forward as well. So I believe these 1, 2, 3 pillars, as we import these best practices, as we embrace and execute them, I see Bangladesh clearly doubling up from where we are right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think these are very valuable points that you're mentioning. I'm just wondering, if you look ahead, what do you believe would be like the most strategic interventions, whether in policy, infrastructure, or supplier capacity that we can do? So you mentioned a few things. What do you believe? No, sorry, I'm still. What do you believe are the most important one? No, yeah, still for you. Yeah.
See, I think on the policy bit of it, some of the things that I just mentioned would entail investments.
Yeah.
So let's make the FDI seamless. Let it flow into the country. It is also in retailers' interest that Bangladesh actually grows. So therefore, if these 1, 2 things are the investments that are required to be made, let the policy framework make sure that there is seamlessly investment coming in. Around the lunch table, some of my colleagues from a leading fashion fund are here. So the lady is saying that every time I have to get into Bangladesh, getting a visa is too much of a hassle. Mm-hmm. So small thing. But I think let's make it seamless in terms of then the infrastructure, because the ports that are there right now, they're handling 50 billion worth of exports. Can the government invest into the infrastructure to handle double the volume?
Yeah.
Then Rakib Bhai touched upon from just being cotton based to more and more fiber.
Yeah.
So therefore, do we expect industry only to do those investments? Or can there be a public-private partnership?
Yeah.
Can there be some kind of mega textile parks? Can there be some kind of production-linked incentives in this direction? So I guess these initiatives just give this as impetus to the industry. We will take it to double the size.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Catherine, if I can move to you. Fashion for Good has played a really important role in all sorts of innovations and new technologies. From your experience, what are the biggest gaps in broader adaptation of these technologies and that you have been working on?
Sure.
Can you give your insight a bit?
Thank you for having me, first of all. Maybe it's helpful to quickly explain what Fashion for Good is doing.
Of course.
So we're a collaborative innovation platform, and we're essentially bringing three groups together. On the one side, innovators that are really looking at the next frontier of solutions, be it next-gen materials, be it recycling, processing solutions, but also digital solutions. And we scout, screen those innovators really from around the world, and we bring them together with industry. And industry being brands, pioneering brands, but also pioneering manufacturers, PDS being one of those in our partner group. And together, these different brands and manufacturers then test, validate those innovations, and eventually, once technology impact and price is also deemed attractive, are engaging in scaling those solutions. And throughout that journey, we then bring the third group into the mix, which is investors, as financing really fuels this scaling journey. We're actually based here in Amsterdam, though operating globally, and since we started some 8 years ago, we've seen a lot of traction with regards to those innovations. A lot of pilots have happened, both in the supply chain, driven by the manufacturers, but also by the brands. And the challenge now that you've pointed to, what comes after those pilots, and that's really
how can you scale it up?
That's really where the rubber hits the road. Now, what's the root cause of this being so challenging? To one extent, price, technology, and impact attractiveness often isn't proven yet. That's why you need some folks to take risks. And if you reflect on innovations that are supply chain-based innovations, often it's then the manufacturer that is asked to take this risk. Now, manufacturers, as the colleagues here have addressed, are operating on thin margins, and there's a lot that is expected from manufacturers. So if you reflect on a new technology, a new innovation that is not completely de-risked yet, there's risk involved, and manufacturers might not want to take that risk. Yeah. Now, conversely, on the other side, you have the brands that demand those sustainable solutions, are interested in those sustainable investments, but they might not necessarily, want to share that risk. So you're in this kind of stalemate situation to some extent. Now, what we have seen, and also, engaging in manufacturers countries, Bangladesh as one, is really to move from pilot to scale. There's three key interventions. On the one side, you look into shared investment models. So
not just the supplier, but also the buyer here takes the risks.
Exactly, absolutely. Yeah. And
so this is also what you were saying, together, you're in it together. It's not just, I want to be sustainable and you please pay for it.
Exactly. Yeah. And these risk-sharing mechanisms, they can be blended finance, the Apparel Impact Institute as a platform organization also has solutions in that space. It can be redeemable grants where this risk is shared. We've seen some examples where brands take that step forward and provide such a redeemable grant. Offtake agreements is obviously what everybody is hoping for from the brands, but that's a tricky one as well. But some kind of risk sharing, I think, is the first one, and it needs to be very tailored. The second one, I think this came across also, and it's great to hear that in Bangladesh so much is happening, but policy and infrastructure support certainly helps. If you have policy incentives that allow, waterless dyeing or energy efficiency innovations to be implemented with some incentives, that certainly helps. And last but not least, what we've seen in our work is that it's not only about finance or policy, it's also really about capacity building. So you need to really start educating everybody involved in, how these innovations work, what the risks are that are involved. So ultimately, to really scale innovation, we can look at this adoption curve, right? As soon as price drops to some extent, technology is, somewhat proven, impact is proven, then the widespread adoption really starts to kick in. We've seen this in other industries, so we're eagerly working to prove this also in the fashion industry.
Thank you. I think that's these 3 points are very valuable and something we need to keep in mind. We're in it together in that sense. I would like to go to our last guest, Leonard Bernhoff. I don't know if you can still hear us. Yeah, we see you. You can hear us clearly, right?
Yes, I hear you fine. You hear me?
Yeah, so as Global Fashion Agenda, you have piloted transformative projects in Bangladesh, such as the Circular Fashion Partnership and the Renewable Energy Initiative. What are the key insights that these initiatives have given, and can you share with us the learnings from that, please?
Sure. Well, thank you, Fleur. I'm happy to share my thoughts on this. Just in short, the Circular Fashion Partnership is really about post-manufacturing waste and management of this, and Renewable Energy Initiative is a project where we are together with Bestseller and H&M are planning to set up a offshore wind farm out of Cox's Bazar. So these are the two projects which you are referring to. We see that these initiatives have really shown sort of a lot of enthusiasm in Bangladesh in the textile industry. And our initiatives really confirm that it's not only the brands and the manufacturers, but also it's really the essential stakeholders, including supply chain and especially waste value chain partners, who we see they're ready to abandon long-standing practices for sustainability. And TFA, along with all the implementation partners, really feel we have successfully mobilized a diverse range of stakeholders to engage in our efforts. These initiatives have raised the industry awareness over the years. We've been working now since 2000 and about 2021. And issues like waste management, energy consumption, carbon emissions, and also facilitating scalable solutions is on the agenda. However, while we've gained momentum at the pilots, a bit like Catherine is talking about, significant public sector involvement is really necessary to scale our initiatives. Public support is vital for advancing sustainability in the industry.
Yes.
Now, as we see...
Sorry, so just to be clear, so you're saying it's not just the brands that we need, but we also need the other stakeholders to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, especially the public sector, they really have to lead in creating policies, updating regulations, enforcing them, addressing even unethical practices. And from time to time, I think people know in Bangladesh that we even see criminal elements which are hindering sometimes the waste management in Bangladesh. So this is definitely things we need to look into. So, without the really robust political action in Bangladesh, like clear sustainability goals, incentives for the green technologies, and accountability for non-compliance, momentum from projects like CFP and the REI cannot really be realized. So for us, it's important to get the government really involved. They need to expand their practices and really move from pilot projects into long-term commitments from all stakeholders. That's critical. The public-private collaboration is also really essential to sustain this change on a larger scale. And GFA is working on a daily basis very hard with all our partners to advocate for a greater industry commitment, but we need stronger government support. So this is one of the things I want to put on the agenda. We need the government to step in and help making these changes really to accelerate the sustainability in the industry right now.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And in all of your stories, I hear also the role of government, which is extremely important to make it happen. So I don't know who's in the room still, but I'm sure you've heard this as well. I would want to leave some time for questions from the room. So I don't know if there are any right now. If there are, please raise your hand, and I will come with the mic. Yep. Just come. Hi. I'm just going to hold the mic if it's okay.
Yeah, my name is Paul Roland from Clean Clothes Campaign. What is missing, I think, in this conversation is one group of stakeholders, and that is workers. They're too often seen as a part of compliance, but not as an equal talking partner who could actually help in achieving these goals. And for that, we need freedom of association, but we also need to listen to things like heat stress that are already occurring and what they need to be involved in the conversation just as much as suppliers, brands, and governments.
Thank you. So the question is, like, how can we get the workers also involved in making this change happen that we've been talking about? Yes, can you use this mic? Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is a good point, and good points to connect, because you see, we have a lot of developments and happening in a satellite connectivity without not having proper integration. Having said that, we are talking about building capacity of the true leadership, so that we give them proper awareness, proper training to negotiate better, like what you do in Europe.
Sorry, so you mean the workers also build their capacity to be able to do that?
Yes. And when you want to do this, you need to also work within the partnership of the stakeholders. You talk about, we have to build the capacity of the government. You talk about DIFE, DOL. They have to build their capacity to build more on ground, proper negotiating leaders. If you do not have proper representation of the labor, you do not have the proper true news. You do not have the proper message. So that's the missing part. We all get together for a resilient attitude to solve the safety problem in terms of infrastructure. We could do the same. We did not. Now we have to do it. Like I say, from volume to value, the value-driven activities are just not about the product. It's about the people. It's about the people, process, planet, and of course, the profit have to be there to have a win-win situation for everybody. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. So I believe the stakeholders are already in connectivity, and I'm sure that we have to be positive to take the criticism, to take the information, and to acknowledge it, address it, and prepare, and we are united. It's a complete responsible supply chain when we talk about being responsible in terms of data traceability or in terms of sharing all the declaration that we are responsible.
Yeah. So basically, you're underlying and you're saying you agree with him. That,
yes, I agree, and I say that we are, being the association leader, being the entrepreneur, I am committed, and I believe that if you see even association target for 2030, if you see the government target for 2040, that all align in, be it decarbonization, be it improvement in labor index, be it committing to see that we have safe. When we see safe is green, right? We say we have green factory, but we do not have it green in terms of many other factors. Where we see green in terms of environment only doesn't mean that it is green. It have to be green in humanity and being responsible. Yeah. So I believe that the new generation of businessmen are really focused, and I'm sure that next 3 to 4 years is our time to make sure that we are responsible before we go global.
Yeah. So you're also emphasizing that not only the environment but the social part is really important for this transformation.
Yeah,
would you like to add?
Yeah, I think I had earlier mentioned that the brands are demanding traceability, carbon accountability, and ethical labor practices. So on one hand, there is this expectation. On the other hand, are we who are having 600 partner factories across the globe, 300 are in Bangladesh, and 2 out of that we own at PDS, with about 6,000 workers. We also employ, 180 ESG professionals, and more than 100 of them are in Bangladesh. Amongst various other responsibilities, one of the key responsibilities to make sure that the workers in any factory, whether it is owned or a partner factory, are taken care of in terms of the social conditions, the condition inside the factory, their rights, the minimum wages that they should be getting, the 8-hour shift, the 10-hour shift. If somebody is removed from the job, then are you taking care of that? So there's this constant education that, gets into it. In fact, my own 2 factories are under a constant scanner by our ESG teams, we are a listed company. That ESG global director reports into the board of the listed company, not to anybody else. So therefore, as a responsible corporate, we want to make sure that I'm not just fulfilling the demand of the brand for, ethical labor practices just for the sake of it. They're actually being practiced on ground. So I guess while we may have an expectation from the public government system, but let's make a beginning from our side. Rakibhai just committed to that. I'm also committing to that we will ensure that the best labor practices are in place.
I will just put one more sentence, sorry.
I have to be a little bit strict because we are actually out of time, and I saw there was one more question, but I would really invite you to continue the conversation after the meeting. I'm sure Paul would love to talk to you. Yes. I'm going to hold it, yes.
No problem. So this is Monwar, the head of sustainability at the Team Group. So when we develop any sort of factory, we always try to look into, making this factory a future fit. Now, when we go to brands, we see there are brands who are very sensitized about sustainability, and there are brands who are not at all minimum aware about the fact of sustainability. So we don't make a factory for any particular brand. So, maybe the question is to the representative of GFA. So what would be the mechanism whereby we can have a common sort of demand side from the brands, and whereby all the brands will have similar attitude in terms of purchasing practice? How can we do that? Because that's going to be very decisive into a global future fit garments hub for Bangladesh.
So if I understand you correctly also, how can we make sure the brands also, all the brands have responsible practices and are also have capacity building and get to the same level? You want to ask Leonard, right? Yeah. Leonard, sorry, you're on mute. We don't hear you yet.
I should be through. Do you hear
Yes,
me?
we hear you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I appreciate the question, and it's a tough one. Obviously, we work as GFA with partners, major partners, smaller partners, both in US and in Europe, and they all have sustainability goals and ambitions they want to achieve. Obviously, there are many brands around the world who have much less ambitions. And I think it's all about matching up, identifying the partners which are important for you. Now, we can see when H&M Bestseller, they approach, for instance, when they approach manufacturers in Bangladesh, they always ensure that they are aligned with their expectations and their goals and their requirements. So I think it's like everything else, it's about matching up, but I agree there's not one, let's say, sustainable solution for all, and it has to be developed case by case. I think many smaller factories in Bangladesh, they're slowly building up, but I think the progression which we see in Bangladesh is very fast. And it's quite impressive what's happened the past 30 years I've been traveling in Bangladesh. So I think I understand setting up factories has to match the customer's expectations on sustainability, but I do feel that it's achievable.
Yeah. Thank you, and I'm sure that the legislation that's coming from the EU will also contribute to a greater awareness and hopefully to more sustainable practices, but we will have to see how that turns out once it's really operational. We are almost running out of time, or actually we have already run out of time, but I saw there was one more question that I want to cover. Is the question still there? Yeah, and then I think we're going to close up. Hi.
Hi, thank you all for the very interesting conversation so far. I had a question about the pilot and the scaling.
Can I ask you what's your name and where you're from?
Sorry, so my name is Nadia van der Weem and I work for the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. So the question is about pilots and scaling. You mentioned a lot of pilots have been done. I can imagine a few of them also were possible to scale. So I was just wondering what was the secret behind those successes and how can we learn from that? So maybe an example of how you how in the past you were able to scale a pilot.
Yeah, Catherine, you want to take this one? Is there?
Great question. Well, there are some, let's say, solution areas that you could almost call as low-hanging fruit or the easy ones. These are the digital solutions. So when we talk about traceability innovations, anything that has a digital element, soft tech solutions, not a lot of CapEx is needed. You can scale this rather easily. You have typically, a payback period that is also, highly attractive. The hard nuts are really the ones that we call hard tech solutions. So that's the ones that typically have long development lead times, require quite some CapEx. And that's where you are in the world of next-gen materials, recycling materials, where you look at processing machineries, etc. Those are, on the other side, addressing those hotspots. If you think of carbon, water, energy, waste dimensions. So that's a little bit more tricky. Two examples that I would like to highlight, because also in the context of Bangladesh, because they really provide a practical entry point. One is related to post-industrial waste, and the discussion covered that already previously, and Leonard can also speak to that, and Reverse Resources is having a booth here. So post-industrial waste speaks to what you mentioned, right? It starts with a mission, it starts from within. It's the offcuts, it's the cutting waste that happens in the production line. And Reverse Resources and Global Fashion Agenda have done an amazing job with lots of manufacturers in Bangladesh to really start building, awareness, education, an ecosystem that this cutting waste, this post-industrial waste is being collected, is then, captured from a transparency perspective in a database, and really this marketplace is made available so that those waste components actually end up as recycled materials later on. Why was this an easier entry point? Because it already had an economic viable component from the get-go. It made sense also for the manufacturers, not a huge investment, to really valorize those waste elements. So that's one example. Another example looks at a neighboring country, looks at India, and a project that we've been orchestrating, Sorting for Circularity India. And it speaks to, the unlock of, pre-competitive collaboration. So we brought a lot of brands, manufacturers in India together to really start mapping where is that waste, this post-industrial but also post-consumer waste, and how can we start building this infrastructure together, sorting, recycling infrastructure, because this is a very nascent one. Much heavier lift, but because there was this pooled interest of all these stakeholders, financing is now flowing. Sorters, waste handlers see that business case, so this infrastructure is being unlocked. So learning from those two examples, one, if there is an economic interest, short payback periods from the get-go, that's a secret to success. The second one, if it's more complex, pre-competitive collaboration is really essential, and tangible collaboration, like really where folks are getting their hands dirty and are committing to action. But we can speak more in the break. I think my time is off.
Yeah, I want to thank you for these really great examples. If you want to know more, I think feel free to speak afterwards. But I want to thank all of you for your valuable contributions. I think if we summarize it, it's all about collaboration, and really all the partners in this value chain need to contribute because no one can do it alone. And I think that's what we need to keep in mind. I want to thank you, and we will go on to the next element of today. So thank you very much. Give them, please, a big hand.